Peace Clan, does anyone think but me about our deficiencies in the cornerback room? Lots of issues there. In my humble opinion, for me, it's much more of a concern than offensive line or quarterback. No interceptions last season. Not good.
Well, I'm going to say Denzel Burke was a victim of the sophomore jinx, and that's why his season was kind of spotty. Plus, he was in and out of the lineup at times. Cam Brown's no longer there, so you don't have him to be as a whipping boy anymore. Jordan Hancock, theoretically, if he's healthy, should be in the mix, I think. And this Ole Miss transfer they're bringing in, Davison Benison, I think is how we pronounce it. He should be in the mix. So you've got three frontline guys right there, potentially. At least Burke and Igbenison have played at the Power 5 level. Hancock still trying to get his feet wet as an every down or a 40 play a game type guy. Kevin, beyond him, I mean, you lose J.K. Johnson to transfer. That kind of hurts the depth a little bit. They brought in some talented guys, but we just don't know. I think Jermaine Matthews from
Matthews, Calvin Simpson Hunt.
Yeah. They're freshmen, true freshmen who are going to get a look. Are there any holdovers from last year's class?
Well, but remember too. I mean, you have Jair Brown had to start.
Yeah, he got to play some.
I think there are two comments here in Peace Clan's question comment. I think there are two veins here that are not necessarily connected. I mean, they are, but they're not. I mean, I think that Ohio State's cornerback room, while still small, has a lot of experience because it had to. Ohio State only had 6 corners last year. Everybody but Ryan Turner really saw action. And they were kind of thrust out into the situation because of that. So you're bringing back a room that has a lot of experience, and you're bringing in some really talented true freshmen. And it's very easy to say, well, these true freshmen shouldn't factor into the depth immediately. But remember, Denzel Burke got right out there. Jair Brown got his number called last year due to the amount of injuries that Ohio State was dealing with. So I think that Ohio State, while the room isn't the deepest, I don't think year in and year out you're going to see the type of injuries that we saw in the Ohio State corner room. So I don't feel bad about that. Now, the separate issue is 0 interceptions. And, I don't want to try and quote Jim Knowles at this point, but if you get a team off the field in a 3 and out, that's as good as forcing a turnover. I mean, yeah, it's not a sudden change. You're going to lose a little field position when you punt. But I'm not as concerned about the 0 interceptions on face value. But, I mean, you do want to see a situation where Ohio State was not 50-50 in 50-50 balls last year, 20-80. Ohio State has got to be better in 50-50 balls. And if some interceptions come because of that, that would be fantastic for Ohio State's in goal. But right now, I think that one of the things that's separating Ohio State from really emerging as a defense is being better with those 50-50 balls.
Yeah, you guys mentioned the true freshmen coming in. And when I look at the best recruits, at least on paper, and you see 3 of the top 5 are wide receivers, and you think, oh, okay, well, that's great, but is that really needed versus the other 2? Okay. Jermaine Matthews and Calvin Simpson Hunt as 2 of the most acclaimed of this 23 recruiting class. So they may get some run, as is stated here somewhere in the chat. Absolutely.
Well, and you don't know. The nice thing is Ohio State is going to have some time between game 1 and game 4 to try and figure out what it has. And while you're not necessarily looking to sit there and go to the lab for all 8 quarters of those 2 games, be it Western Kentucky and Youngstown State, you do need to sit there and try and figure out what the best 11 are to have out there, because the schedule is going to get real fast. And Ohio State has fewer home games this year. The crossover games are difficult. So the Buckeyes better figure out what's going on. I'm a big fan of both Matthews and Simpson Hunt. I don't know on the surface if these guys are going to be able to come in and surpass some of the guys that have experience, but you've got to open up the competition and kind of see what you have. But the biggest thing is don't be throwing true freshmen out there because you have to, because you have too many injuries and you have to put them out there. If you put them out there because they've proven during practice, they've proven during everything that is your best option. And if that's the case, I'm all for it then.
Yeah, the comment there that Burke looked a little distracted, I would agree. I think that he just was kind of fighting some things. And obviously, when you change your position coach from one year to the next, there are some growing pains that go with that. I think Tim Walton took some heat for some of the techniques and some of the results. And, may or may not have been fair comment in his regard. I guess, the coaches are never going to throw the players under the bus and say, we've taught them to look back. They just don't look back. They're never going to say that. I guess there could be a coach that says, no, I'm happy that they don't look back. But that's a common message board refrain. Why don't our corners look back and make plays on the ball? And I'm right there with a lot of you in a lot of instances that, it would be nice if they did. But, they just really haven't. So, I'm of a belief that they're going to get it straightened out this year. I think it's all going to work out. They've got depth, as Kevin said, they've got guys who've played at least some. So I am of a mind that it's going to work out, and they're going to get it. They're going to be better defensively. I think. Maybe that means instead of giving up 40 to Georgia, you only give up 25, or that caliber of opponent. 40 to Michigan, maybe you only give up 24, whatever that may look like. But I think it is going to be better on the bottom line, I think.
Garyon Conley, the former Ohio State defensive back, was on social yesterday, I think it was, and was talking about wanting to do a podcast about why corner is the most difficult position to play or whatever. I'm like, Garyon, come on over to the Big Me Kickoff. I got you here. We'll talk about it for 2 hours if that's what you want to. And it's animals just jumping all over this house right now. It's
any way you can get us viral, Kevin.
I guess
whatever it takes.
I guess. It's like Noah's damn ark around here or something. I don't know, but it's a difficult position for sure. Especially if Ohio State is going to put you out there on an island, and not everybody is built for that. But to Steve's point about getting your head around, I go back and forth on it. Yes, you would think that being able to track the ball by looking at it is very important. But there are also times where I don't care if you're looking back. If you're a step and a half behind the guy, you're not going to be able to do anything by turning your head. If you have perfect coverage and the ball is underthrown and the guy has to come back, the receiver comes back through you to try and get to it and draws a PI, I still don't know if in that bang-bang situation, if your head is turned around, if that's going to change a whole lot. But certainly there are refinements in the technique that are not necessarily connecting with these guys, whether or not it's them not, putting it as part of their game, or it's not something that is being talked about enough. I don't know on there, but there's a lot that still needs to be done in terms of getting the corners back to this BIA status that we saw. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans started to take for granted because it was year in and year out that they just had lockdown corners and guys that were going to go in the first round of the draft, and it dries up a little bit. And you I think at that point you realize how fortunate you were to have the Jeffrey Okudas of the world.
Yeah, they're just okay in America right now, Kev. They're not best in America. No doubt.
Not at the moment, no.
Not at the moment.
Yeah, I always thought quarterback was the most difficult position in sports just because those guys are having to make split-second decisions with all sorts of chaos going on around them and elite pass rushers coming after them and huge 300-pound monsters, shoving centers and guards in their face and then trying to anticipate, when I release the ball at this split second, because we always get that overhead view, especially during the NFL games, well, during the college games as well now. that I'm always fascinated at what point the ball is leaving the quarterback's hands. So he's already made a decision probably a half second before that, but when the ball's leaving his hands versus when it arrives and what he had to try to determine, unless the dude's wide open, in terms of anticipating windows and anticipating a lot, because the field looks and the coverage so much different 2.5 seconds later than it did at the point that he decided to make that throw. And then on the flip side, at least the quarterback's got control. He knows what the play is. He knows where the receivers are going to be and all that. The cornerback, these dudes just have nothing but green grass all over to cover this large land and face an elite athlete and not know where they're going to be and what they can do. And these quarterbacks and receivers are so good now. That is a tough deal for them.